This is the 1 hour capsule.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it.
Hello and welcome to the 1 hour capsule podcast. In this episode, we have two guests. Troy Mertz, who has over 15 years of hairstyling experience. He's also the owner of the Republic of Hair, which is a hair salon. I would say one of the best hair salons in Toronto. And also Donna Greenberg, who has a very rich background in the arts. She's a vocalist, a songwriter, a lyricist, a music video director, a producer, and also she is has many years of experience in different styles of dance, and she is the director and owner of Ballet's Percibo, which is an adult dance studio or school, also based in Toronto. Hello and welcome. My guests today we have Troy Mertz and Donna Greenberg, and also co-host Dear No here today. And welcome everybody.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
So it's Sunday today in Toronto. It's a sunny day, a little cold, but we're living through these times of COVID. And for myself, as I went out biking today, just noticing how everything is just becoming so normal again. I mean, I'm seeing just crowds of people. Yesterday, I was at Kensington Market, and it was packed full. Where like it seems like people are not obeying to the social distancing rules anymore. I would even call it social merging instead of social distancing anymore.
Yeah,
Because
I
people
think
that I see on in Kensington Market, for example, like people are just like bumping into each other to that point. Where I'm seeing people like there's no distance anymore. So it just seems like I don't know to me that this whole COVID thing is or quarantine, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, is pretty much over. I mean,
I think we talked about this before when I mentioned that the fact that we don't get a summer, well, we might miss on the summer. That's why people are so eager to go out and might take some, I guess, chances um, to enjoy the summer. That's why you see so many people outside. Because I bet you if COVID started in November in Canada, I don't think many people will be going out at that point, like let's say January to March. So,
mhm.
yeah. That's my
Yeah,
theory.
I think the isolation would have been just natural. You're right.
Exactly. So,
I think people are they think it's over, but
hmm
the numbers don't support that, and I think that they want to believe it's over because they want to enjoy
hmm
the weather. But I think they're but you can enjoy the weather. You can go out. You don't have to be on top of each other. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are frustrated with being inside and a little. They seem like they're being defiant by doing that. To me, they're not taking enough care of themselves. And I don't, even though the numbers have diminished in Ontario, to a certain degree, they're not worldwide. So, you know, I don't know how you guys feel, but I find that really, un, I don't like that idea of people going together so closely unless they know each other really well. How do you feel?
I don't know. I feel like the media plays a big role here because if I remember, like when things were getting really picked up, when the WHO said that there's a pandemic, and I'm just seeing like just an overflow of media messages just telling us to be careful and with good reason. But I just feel like there's an element of where the media just plays a role and it just like doesn't participate to continue to be consistent with the message that we need to be careful because I'm just seeing like, and it could be that we're going through just a shift of focus and right now because if you guys heard the protests in the United States and the people have been protesting as well here in Toronto, and I just feel like there's a shift of focus. And there's like a consistency and I kind of blamed, I don't know, from my perspective I blame the media a little bit on that, but that's my take on that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, but I still think that the focal, no matter if people protest or whatever they're doing, they could still just have supported the idea of basically saying, hey, keep a little bit of space between everybody, wear masks. And that's the big thing: wear masks. Going anywhere, wear masks. And if they would have, I think, sort of kept that as a hard line in their thing, I think it would have been way more supported a bit more.
I agree with you. I think that the media. I agree with both of you. I think the media is always, or the media is always blowing things up to get to
Yeah.
be sensational to get people to listen. But I agree with, if they would have stressed more, like they do in other countries, that you should wear a mask, that people would take it a bit more seriously. I always wear a mask when I'm out. I don't know why people go out and expose themselves and expose other people to that. Like, I don't get that, because it just means that you have to just be a little bit conscious and put the mask on your face. It's just a little thing, like you brush your hair when you go out. Why don't you just put a mask on? To
It,
me, it should be second nature, you
Probably
know?
to your point earlier, where you say people are defined, right? So maybe
Yeah,
they don't want to wear a mask because it's not part of their style. It might not have to be directly about the health itself. It's just a look or just a way of not listening to protocols because, it kind of goes against the way they think. I don't know. It's a little odd to me. If I knew I could save myself from getting sick by wearing a mask, I would wear a mask all the time. But to each his own, right?
100%. And then once they do get sick, they're going to be crying to the doctors to help them.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly,
facts.
It doesn't,
exactly.
so it's really weird. But I feel that where it's going to kind of go, I feel, is that you're going to start going like H&M and find very fashionable masks.
Mm.
I have a feeling that it's literally going to be part of our culture for the biggest part of all this, which is maybe not a bad thing. Like I said, if you're saying you want something that's a bit more fashionable, you'll be able to accessorize. If you got a blue suit on, maybe you'll find a nice blue mask to wear,
They're
right?
already doing they're already doing it. I've seen some masks on Facebook, like fancier masks. And yeah, I
Yep.
mean, you can have fun with it. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
You can make it, as long as you respect the fact that it helps people, if only it keeps a little bit of a barrier
Mm.
between people. And I think that's important, because we really don't know the health effects of this, and we don't know the long-term effects of this. You know, we don't know if you're asymptomatic, how it will reveal itself, because it's happened to people. They just don't know enough
Yep.
medically.
Yeah. But
And
wearing the mask, keep in mind, it basically doesn't allow the. It's almost like you're smothering the virus. There's nothing for it to breed onto. So if majority of people wear masks, it can't survive, and that's what's
yeah,
kind of cool about
and
wearing the mask.
and the great thing is you're protecting. It's not that you're just protecting yourself, you're protecting others, right? By wearing the mask, just in
Exactly.
case you're
Exactly.
sick or you don't know that you're sick, like you mentioned, the asymptomatic. Um, Yeah, this it's interesting. I don't know why we're so hard-headed when it comes to health. Maybe we lived in a world full of privilege, so it's hard for us to give up certain things when you live so long with, the liberty of doing a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
don't
you,
know.
yeah.
It's interesting to me. It's yeah.
I think you put your finger on it. I think that the fact is that people are not used to sacrificing anything.
Mhm.
Like, they don't have to consider that. Like, I remember um, a couple of months before COVID started, like going on the subway, and seeing everybody is looking at their phone. Nobody's relating to each other. Like, it's really scary, like a science fiction movie. Nobody's ever looking at each other. They don't acknowledge there's a human being beside them, and they stop in the weirdest places, and they don't care whether they're blocking entrances and everything, because they have to check their phone. Like, go over to one side and everything. But now, I mean, now they have to be considerate of other people. They have to measure their space. They have to think about the role of the mask to protect themselves and other people as well, especially children, because we don't know how it affects children yet. Things are happening with kids, like there are different kinds of symptoms that are coming up with children. They're
So,
kind of scary.
so a little segue into, like, I know, like, Troy, you both, Troy and Donna, you both of your businesses. I think, I don't know which one is more. but both of your businesses entail dealing with customers, clients, in a very like very close basis. At least for Troy, like comes to like styling hair of customers, you have to probably have taken extra considerations because you're in a way getting exposed to people. Just thinking about the future of when you're gonna start actually working again. But I know you've like I know I was talking to Troy because obviously we're looking to have reestablish opening business again because many businesses have reopened again, and I'm sure you're looking forward for that to happen when it comes to hair salons.
Mhm.
But we just talk about like some of the things you've been thinking about in preparation for opening business, where it's in a physical space again.
Yeah, well, this thing like came out of nowhere. It wasn't like I said for the world. It just sort of caught the world by surprise. So when you sort of break all those fragments down and just me and my own personal uh, space at work, it you have to rethink everything as into, you know, uh, greeting a client and saying hi or saying goodbye or it's everything is sort of now in a sense. Has to be more thought out, I guess. And so it's sort of a hands-on learning experience for myself, as in, I'm sort of looking to the rest of the world in the hairdressing industry to see salons that have already opened up
Mm.
as into what they're doing differently now and what I can grow from and what I can learn by, and sort of applying those, to keep my self safe, my staff safe, and customers safe also. So it's sort of like wearing a face mask while cutting hair. Just we're talking about wearing masks outside. I got to wear one at work now. But like I said, if it keeps myself healthy and keeps everybody else healthy, that's very, very important. Asking clients when they first come in to go wash their hands is something different. You'd never really think about doing that before. Um, Now it's all just bottled water and bottled drinks, everything that can be disposable. So there's no cross contamination. Is different. That whole word now, cross contamination, really wasn't part of our vocabulary, but now it's really a big part of our vocabulary now.
And so in the hair salon also, are you going to be limiting how many people are inside the hair salon? Because I remember sometimes there's a waiting area, and I know some places like basically any place, like a coffee shop, for example, they limit like 4, 6 people.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that how we're working with that now is basically we're taking. So if we took a man in every half hour and we took a woman's haircut in every hour, we're extending that by 20 minutes. So basically, the likelihood is if your appointment was at 9:30, John would be showing up for his 10 o'clock, but now John's going to be showing up at 10:20, which allows us so there's less people in the salon itself, and it also gives us time to sanitize everything and get it ready for the next person to come in.
mhm.
Now, how does that affect your business hours? Because since it seems like you're going to be expanding a little bit of, adding extra time to your services, does that, you know, change your business hours in a sense?
It just changes the amount of clients that we do in a day.
Mm,
So at the end of the day, it might be you'd say the equivalent of a woman's haircut. I'm kind of basing it on as being like with the loss of one woman's haircut. So either we could stay open a little later or come in a little earlier to balance that out, or just lose out on that one woman's haircut of time,
mm,
I guess. But it's ideally it's like I said, it's even getting like the whole routine of being able to clean. We'll get better at it and quicker at it. It's just basically, I guess like Donna learning new dance moves. You're going to be, I was dancing to a different song before. Now I'm having to dance to a new song. So there's a few extra
mhm.
steps in that song and a few extra moves. But I think after rehearsing it a while and repetitiveness of that, we'll get stronger at doing
Interesting.
And what about you, Donna? Have you started thinking about what it would look like once the physical studio space will open for your dance studio?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if from what, for, there was there were there was something published that came out, an email sent to people working with dance from the, I don't know if it was the government from Ontario, from Dance Ontario, which is an association that I belong to. I think it was from them, and they were talking about the guidelines for how you would run some kids classes. I only teach adults,
Mm.
and it seemed and it was seemed it's going to be impossible given the studio that I was in to do those things and to attract people to come. What's happened with me is I started to work completely online, and I'm really filled up with people because they feel really safe, and they each get a private class, and it's very intense, but they really like the experience and they feel very safe. I don't know how many people will want to come back to be studying and take the risk, because it's not just okay when you're in a studio space. It's a small space, um, relatively small space. I don't have a huge studio. I can't afford that. I'm an independent ballet teacher, and I have limited means, and I'm the only teacher at my school. So some dance studios have huge spaces, but I don't have one of them, and nor could I afford it. So it's not just what you're doing. Before, I was having classes back to back and having a certain X number of students, but they can't possibly maintain the amount of space, even if they're wearing masks. They're still sweating, all of these things. A lot of people would be very uncomfortable sharing this, even if I'm cleaning, in between, which would take some time and that would put things even later. And I don't know, every student that I've spoken to, and I have quite a few of them, they're not very eager to go back to a group class. They're really happy with continuing the way that they're continuing. So I don't know how this is going to be. And not just my studio. See, the studio that I was working in, there were two studios back to back, like beside each other. And then you have the reception area. And there's one washroom. So who's cleaning what? And how can you clean every time somebody goes into the bathroom? Like it doesn't seem possible to watch and monitor all those things, especially when there's one teacher in one studio and I'm in another studio, and we don't and our classes don't end at the same time, and we may not be teaching at the same time. That's happened. So I don't know how it will be, if it's going to be, and if I'm going to be able to get students, or if people want to continue online with me, because I have much more control that way. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Hmm. No, it just kind of just reminds me, because I've been thinking about this quite a bit. It's about like what are some of the things that COVID or this reality that we live in right now has done for us as a society, let's say. And I think one of the things I think is kind of led us to do is to think about things differently. And because we
Hmm.
are isolated, in our own homes. And for you, Donna, you can make online classes work, but for Troy, probably he can do what he does online. But maybe,
Absolutely not. Yeah.
but maybe it could lead to think something about the lines that Troy is very knowledgeable about what he does. So I don't know if Troy, we would have thought about this, but what about, like, for example, teaching or sharing your knowledge and then getting paid somehow, by doing online, somehow sharing the knowledge that you have. But regardless of that, the thought that I was trying to get at is just about like this COVID situation. It's making us think in different ways, in ways that we have not thought about, and somehow it has to do a lot with technology. It's just something that I'm noticing. Like, for example, I give you one clear example. My father, he always wanted to do video or live broadcasts, because he has a lot of thoughts and things that he wants to share. A lot of has to do with politics. He has a lot of views on things. But because of this COVID thing and he's at home a lot, he really was eager for me to teach him how to use Facebook Live. And so he told me, like, what do I need to do a Facebook Live feed? And I'm like, well, pretty much nothing. You just basically get the app, press the button. But if you want to do it very nicely, you have to get nice lighting. You have to get maybe a lapel mic that you can connect to your computer or to your phone, and you have to like sort of like use some online promotional tools like Facebook ads or Google ads, and just do it proper and get as many people as you can. And so my father, who's like almost 70, he's now at the beginning I had to help him, as you can imagine. I am able to give support by phone or whatever other means, and I help him get the equipment. So I taught him how to use equipment. So at the age 70, he was able to learn. Now he's able to do it himself. So every Tuesday or every Thursday he goes on, and pretty much he just does it all himself by now. He doesn't need any of my help. But I'm just like starting to think and reflect on the fact that this situation is forcing us to do things maybe differently, and somehow, as I'm saying, something to do with technology, just like forcing us to do more with technology to maybe like surpass our fears of technology, which I understand people can have, and just be able to adopt it in a way that maybe we haven't done before. And then what is that going to do for society, I wonder.
Well, it's kind of funny you say that because I've thought the exact same thing, and I feel that humans in themselves, we've always grown. If you think about it realistically, think of where the cavemen were and how they've grown, and this is something in our life now that's going to teach us to grow in many different ways, technology wise and educational wise, and we're just going to adapt as humans. We will always adapt. If weather gets super cold, we dress up really warm. If weather gets super hot,
Hmm.
we know how to cool down. And I just think it's in our nature to adapt.
Hmm.
And I think historically, every time you have, like during the wars, there was so much development and post war development of technology and new ideas because people were forced, they, things, limitations were placed on them, all kinds of limitations with supplies and all this stuff. And I think it's true now. I think that we have a lot of people are starting to think very differently. For example, I tried to get online classes going like a year or two before. Remember, Norman? We were
Yeah.
trying to get that, and it was so difficult. I had a couple of students, one in Australia and one in Ireland. They were both former students, and they
Mm.
loved my classes. But now, like, I have a waiting list of people because all I did was show people. People were reluctant. They really were. And I said, okay, I'll give you 15 minutes to try it. And all of a sudden, they loved it. They thought, oh, I can't do it. And we're talking about people that have like a hallway to work in, but they're all practicing more. They're enjoying the class more. They're really, every single person that I teach is developed and strengthened themselves. And it's just wonderful to see that, and they feel, and that's just making things available and showing people that there are possibilities. And I think that a lot of people are looking at their skill sets and saying, well, I can't do what I was doing before, or I'm blocked with that. I may not be able to continue. So, what am I interested in? What can I do? Like, some people are starting small businesses. Look at all the food delivery services. It was interesting because I get blog TO every day. And a couple when COVID started, there were a very limited number of food delivery places, and now there are so many of them that are specialized in this type of product, vegan products, blah blah blah, all this stuff. I think that people are going to open themselves up. I don't know about hairdressing. I don't know, because I agree with Norman. Teaching is one of the most important things, and there are people who make good money doing stuff online, and doing instructional videos, some with a mix of free stuff, and then they get people who are more interested in, they get people interested in specializing in everything.
I,
But I think that there are
I've been
possibilities.
I've been an
Sorry?
educator before. I've been an educator before for different brands of products. When it comes to education, usually we do is we can educate other stylists on how to do things, but it's really kind of when you're dealing with chemicals. I've had a few clients already ask me, "Hey, what do you recommend that I can't really recommend anything because it's chemicals, and if they fry their hair or harm their hair or make their hair color they didn't
Yeah.
want, they're ultimately
Yeah.
going to me." So you can't sort of do that. And then when it comes to hair cutting, it's you can kind of show somebody how to get by in a figure of speech. But let's be honest, when you sit in a chair and I give Norm sparkling water or an espresso, and he's sort of sitting there and we're cutting his hair. It's just you can't replace that with a video seminar. You just can't, and I'm glad that you can't. To be honest with you, it's just like I said. It's just personable. People like to be in a sense taken care of. And it's a part of the service industry that's very, I feel, close. It's in a sense intimate. I'm touching Norman's hair for crying out loud. There's not any else except for his wife that'll probably be able to touch his hair. Like, so it's always to be sort of it's I think it's we do something that nobody else really does, and I think that the only thing we have to do is work hard to make sure that we keep Norm safe and keep our staff safe, and I think that it's it's sort of going to be the new norm, but it's something that I don't want to try to replace with uh, video seminars that way with technology. I like how people book online and do that type of stuff or pay, tapping without having to physically touch cash. That's a neat thing too. But ultimately, my service is sort of in my chair. So it's basically like a doctor or a dentist. You're going to have to come in to get a checkup. You're going to have to come in to get your hair cut, or get your color done. And it's going to be done the right way. And it's just going to be done on a more clinical, sterile way in a figure.
I agree with you. I think yours is a very, we have similarities, but yours is a very different kind of profession. It is that that hands-on. You need to do that. I wouldn't trust anybody with my hair except my hairdresser. You know, I wouldn't touch my hair because until she touches it. Because I've been going to her for years and she knows my hair, and it's a very special relationship. And that I think is right. I think you can't replace that in your business. In my business, I feel that I can, like I've already been able to, and I want to. I don't want to. I've always been very strong about delivering a very specialized, individual product for people. Even in a group class, I limit everything because I take adult education really, really seriously, especially in the arts. But, it's a different kind of situation with a dance studio when you're close to each other with bodies. Most of the people that I teach, they wouldn't want to go near. They wouldn't come. They really wouldn't be able to come
Do you
because they'd
think
be afraid.
do you think it'll be more you'll get actual partners, like actual couples, because they are closer, they know each other. It'll be more on
Hmm.
that than say a group of strangers.
No,
You put Karen and Sue together that don't know each other. Do you feel that your classes would be more if you had say five couples that wanted to learn stuff?
no, it doesn't happen like that. Not the kind of dance that I teach. If you're teaching salsa or you're teaching popular dance, but not ballet, it doesn't work that way. I've had a couple of couples that have come for stretch classes, but I don't teach that type of dancing. It really depends on the style of dancing that you're teaching and the people that want to learn. I mean, every type of dance has different kind of um, specifications and interaction and training. And I don't teach that type of dance, and I wouldn't want to teach that type of dance. It's not my type of dance, and that's not my expertise. And I wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, I've studied that before, and I could, but it's not something that I really enjoy doing because it's not mine, and other people can do it much better than I can. So, whereas what I'm doing, most people don't teach as intensely as I do and give my students what I give them and what they're looking for. So, you know, I've been teaching for a long time.
Maybe you can share a little bit about that, Donna, because I know you have a specific view on dancing education and why is that important and should be accessible for everyone. Because when you think about dance, I think for a lot of people, especially when it comes to ballet, they think about that, you needed to have done it since you were a kid. And now that you're an adult and you probably lost your chance. But I think you have a different approach in that. Maybe you can share that a little bit. Because
Sure, sure. Well, I don't believe that at all. Um, it, adults, adult adults have a different brain, they have a different body. And a lot of people, when they come back to ballet from being, and they had a lot when they were kids, they're so it can be very frustrating for them because they think of themselves of what they did when they were kids. Maybe they were very good at it, but now they're a lot heavier. Their bodies have changed. They're an adult, and it's their brains are different, the way they learn and process information, and also what they do all day. People, you're getting people who want to study ballet that it's a wonderful art to study. It's very good for health, and it's great for coordination. It's great for your brain development, your muscular activity, and just for the pleasure of it. You feel wonderful and graceful, and you get stronger and more balanced. I mean, there's a million positive things, and it's got nothing to do with being on point or being a professional ballerina. That has nothing to do with it. The people who are serious about it, they make big changes in themselves, and they feel so much stronger and better. And they approach things differently, but they're sitting all day. Most people now have jobs where they're sitting, and that wasn't true 25 years ago. A lot of people did many different things, and they weren't sitting all the time in offices. They were running around. But since we've got technology, computers, everything's screens in front of us, very few people have the luxury of having a job where they're physically active. And that's one of the biggest problems that people have, because they need to get moving, and they need to get their heart going, and they need to stretch and do all these things, and they just enjoy also the way they're not stressed. Like a lot of my students have very high pressure jobs. They're very educated people. They're very wonderful people, and they have a lot of pressure in their jobs and their family life, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a relief for them, and they just enjoy the process of learning. And it's something that anybody can learn. You don't have to be a professional, just like anybody can sing if they take some lessons and learn how to use their voice and not hurt themselves while they're doing it. It doesn't mean you're going to have a fantastic voice or you're going to be a fantastic dancer, but that's not the objective for a lot of people. They just want to feel better and feel more graceful and stronger, and have a nice goal to work towards that will make them healthy and happier. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, Norman.
Yeah, no, this is it because you brought up singing also. It's something that maybe you can share also, that your background is also in singing. So you're not only like a classical ballet teacher, but you're also a singer, and you have albums
Yeah,
out there on Spotify. How do you
yeah,
how do you balance the two, the music and the dancing? I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I studied music. I've been involved in music. I studied music theory. I write music, and I sing it. I had classical training, which I don't sing classically, but I sing more jazz and popular music. But it's the body. It's again, I'm a person who loves to work with my body, and I love to sing, and I love to dance, and I love music. So yeah, I wanted to be educated in both, and I love the discipline and formality of it. I really love the formality of things. I'm not into improvisation and that type of thing, although I've done that, but it's not something that I really like doing. I love the development of technique and how to improve yourself and how to work on your technique. So what I do is I teach, and I have my own little vocal closet in my apartment, and I go in there and I practice every day or 5 days a week, for an hour or so, and then I work on songs and work with an arranger, and we record. And you want to do something, you love something, you should do it. that's, that's
Mm-hmm.
all there is to it. If you want to do it, because there's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a magic button you press. No one can do it for you, and you'll never know what. I mean, it's all about enjoying and becoming better at these skills. And
Mm-hmm.
it happens through the discipline of studying and of improving yourself and working on something and trying to make it better or more meaningful, or it depends on what or all of those things. It depends on what your values are, if
Mm-hmm.
it's important to you, but it takes a lot of sacrifice and a
Mhm.
lot of discipline.
I think it's something that kind of repeats everywhere for the people that are successful and speak about like what does it take to be successful. I think they always talk about discipline and dedication and consistency and hard work, right? Like those are just the things that you need to do. But um, because I wanted to touch on like the issue of health, because I think everyone on the call understand the value of physical activity and physical health. At least I try to do what I can. I certainly do try to be active. I work out every day and I go a lot on my bike all the time. But I do it because I mean, not so much because I have a plan that I want to be healthy. I do want to be healthy. I try to do it as a way to enjoy myself, but I do see the benefits of having physical activity in our lives. And I think not everybody sees it that way. I think people, a lot of people, not generalizing, but there's a lot of people out there who just see it, physical activity, as a task, as something that just work, and it's just like it's a burden, and why don't we just put it off and do something else instead, because it's work, and I'd rather just enjoy life. But I think there's a loss of sight sometimes, that having physical activity in your life is so important for health. Because I think, I don't know, especially maybe for some young people, they have their youth now, and they enjoying it and everything is fine, but there's a lack of sight on the like future sight, or what's the word I'm trying to get, seeing in the future kind of thing, projecting in the future, as to like what are you going to be when you are in your 50s, maybe even your 40s, and you at that point realize like, oh, I have this ailment and I have this ailment, and maybe they wouldn't have realized that if had they been more active and conscious earlier on in their lives, and also just conscious about like the things that they ingest, the things that they need in their bodies,
Hmm.
they they sometimes it might just be too late, because now you have a condition that is incurable, and, that I don't want to say which ones, but there you can imagine which ones. um,
Norman, I wonder if a lot of us don't have the motivation to work out or exercise because sometimes come back to the media, what is promoted more is like a body type. Like, do you want to
hmm,
look like The Rock? Or do you want to look like, I don't know, who another female whose body type is known for looking, maybe
hmm,
not attainable. So
hmm,
people just give up because they cannot attain that body type instead of
hmm,
focusing on what the health
hmm,
benefits are of working out. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I know in my early 20s, I was thinking like that. I was like, oh man, I would like to look like The Rock or whatever. Maybe not as big as him, but
like
that was
Dwayne
kind of
Johnson.
like the goal, not the goal of being healthy per se.
Hmm,
So maybe
hmm,
that has a lot of effect on people's mind, and they don't really. I mean, they
hmm.
do know the benefit, but they might not really focus on it. And I
So
I
you,
think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Troy.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna come back to the government too. I think that was one of the things they should have promoted during this pandemic. The fact that physical exercise and healthy, I guess, eating habits is a great way to help you, either fight off COVID if you have it, or um, you know, reduce the chances of getting it, basically.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. If they would have incorporated that into their thing of wearing masks and everything else. But getting back to what you're saying about the youth and working out, and I have a client that is a personal trainer, and he said, "Man, he goes, so many kids nowadays they get a phone, and anything that they need, there's in a sense an app for it."
Mm.
He goes,
hmm,
so they'll come to the gym and they want to say look like The Rock, or look, somebody else that's on, and they can, I guess, with hard work they'll obtain that person that they want to look like, man or female. But he was saying it's amazing. You'll take them for a tour of the gym, and obviously trying to get them signed up for their 1 year, membership and everything. And he goes, at the end of it all, they always say the same thing to me, like, "Is there something I could be taking to, get in shape?" And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, is there like, like a pill or something I could take?" And he's like, "Well, you got to work out. It's called coming in a gym and sweating and eating proper foods." And he goes, "That's how you're going to get in shape. There's no app or a pill for this. You got to do
Yep.
it. It's called hard work, applying yourself." And he said the youth all just sort of want instant. It's almost like when we were kids, we'd go get film developed. And nowadays, you take a photo, it's right on your phone.
Yeah, you can watch a TV series in one sitting. It's
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, we'd have to wait all week for that new episode to come on before,
no.
right?
Yeah, I think that's something to do with that, right? Like we were just, and I think it's probably more and more that we're growing accustomed to get things instantaneously, and then we just don't see that in order to get something, you need to just put a lot of work, and it's not going to be immediate. And just like the personal trainer might tell you that if you want to lose 20 pounds and if you want to look like whoever body type looks good in their minds, you probably need to wait. I don't know, good couple of months or whatever it is that you need to wait. And like Donna was saying earlier, consistency, hard work, dedication, something that I don't know. I feel perhaps it's harder to understand these days, and it's just because people are so used to it, right? Like if you want a burger, open Uber Eats, press a couple of buttons, and there's the burger at your door in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And this is the kind of thing that is happening. And I don't know if it's just leading us or leading more people into having unhealthier choices and unhealthier lifestyles. And I just feel, something that is happening right now.
I think all three of you are making really, really valid and important points. It's kind of ironic because never before have we had so many possibilities for eating well and so many ways to get produce and wonderful food that is healthy for you. But people, I can't get over when you go to the supermarket and you see what people choose. It's unbelievable. And you're right, they're so used to just saying, I want this, I need this, I feel like getting a hit of sugar. And this whole thing with the body type, I agree. They put this idea in people's head that healthiness means that you look like a certain person, and that's so untrue. And the people that I teach, none of them look like your ballerinas. They look like they're ordinary people. My idea is that anybody can learn ballet, and I have students every shape and size and form, and every age of adult. I've had students 18 dancing beside somebody who's 60. Okay, so and they like it. They like the fact that they're all people, ordinary people. They just want to learn, and they want to study this. They want to feel good about what they're doing. They want to enjoy whatever reason they're there. Some people it's to improve their posture, and that's part of the other problem. A lot of the clothing and the idea, government never talks about posture, never talks about standing straight, never talks about what it does, exercise does for your bones, how you feel better. Like people think that they're going to be 20 forever. And the 20-year-olds that I see more and more, they look like they're 60-year-olds. And the 60-year-olds look like they're 20. So, I mean, it just in terms of their weight, their control, there's so much garbage that, there's so much, they could be doing so much more to promote this, and not an ideal body or an ideal this, but an ordinary person. Every single person needs to exercise. Every single person, doesn't matter what genes you have, needs to eat properly. You need to get vitamins. You need all of these things to be healthy. And there's none of this stress. It's always this ideal of something. And then people feel guilty and they give up, or they get
Mm.
frustrated because they don't look like that person, or they aren't as good looking as that person. Who There's all kinds of people in this world. What difference does it make? Everybody gets sick, everyone's going to die,
Hmm.
and everyone needs to live and live well. Like, if COVID didn't show us anything, anybody can die. Okay, it doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter. If you get that virus, you get that virus and you could die. So, we all need certain things, and there's not enough emphasis on that at all, I think. I don't know what you think.
I agree. I agree. There's not much to say. I agree. It's just difficult sometimes to convince certain people of this when, it's easier to eat a burger than thinking about how I'm gonna cook my spinach with salmon. It's 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 hard. Like it's a burger is easy and a bun and some ground beef and that's it, and it tastes great. Uh, so I don't know how do you change the mindset Does it start at school, or do you get specific classes, or are we the government should promote certain books? So I don't know. It's not an easy thing, especially if I don't know, if I'm a kid and I'm into a healthy lifestyle, but my parents cannot afford it because, certain circumstances. It also has an effect on it. So I don't know. It's not clear cut issue for me. I don't know.
I think you're right. There's a lot of stuff, especially with kids, but candy costs money,
Mm,
and maybe you can't. People can't. I think people who don't have a lot of money, they still can provide healthier food and healthier meals for their child.
mhm,
I think it maybe takes more time.
mm,
Like you can learn. That's what I mean. There's so much available to learn, and you don't need any money to do it. You can just press a button, look at a YouTube thing. What's a healthy, balanced meal? I think it's the idea that you're not going to go for what's easy, because what's easy is is not usually good for you, and it does take a little bit more care, but in the process, like as Troy was saying, they're going to learn how to get faster at cleaning up, at cleaning the salon, doing what they have to do. Once you start getting used to cooking your salmon and your spinach, you might even think, wow, what can I add to that? Maybe a little bit of broccoli or something like that. Oh, that looks interesting. Your perspective will change when your attitude changes.
mhm.
It's a question of really, what do you want to do? It's a choice that you make.
But
Fast
all you
food
guys
tastes
say
so
the same
good.
thing. All you guys are saying the same thing, though. It's all about time. So if
Yep.
they've actually, you know, as quick as it is to say make a burger or order a burger, if they could come up with really for the same cost efficiency, as in like say if a burger's $5, if you can get a salad for $5 just as quickly, you might lean towards that more. But unfortunately, that's where I feel it's too convenient to get the stuff that isn't good for you. And they it's that's where it becomes sort of the tough part to make those decisions, because you're right, it does take more work to be healthier, where if they could sort of fix that a little bit more, as in making it just as convenient to be healthy as it is to be unhealthy, then people might make those choices, might be a little bit more easier to make.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now I had a question for you guys. This is more of a question regarding your business and the government responses to small business owner. Do you guys feel like the government did enough or set up a plan that was, good enough to help you during this period of time? Since there's a lot of unknown and you guys don't know, you didn't know when you were gonna reopen, how you would adjust your business.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go, Donna?
You go ahead, Troy.
Okay,
You go ahead.
I think being the circumstances of nobody knew what this disease was. It was invisible. Nobody knew how it was going to attack people at first a few months ago, and everything's been sort of like as every day goes on, we learn more about everything, and that includes what the government had to do to take care of us. I think as Canadians, they stepped up in a very big way. And helped out people who don't have businesses, and I think the people who have businesses, they've really sort of tried hard to figure that out. There's, it's not like they had an emergency button hit and it was already planned out for something like this. So, under the circumstances, I thought they did quite well.
Hmm.
I agree. I think they did. I think that, we can look back in retrospect and say maybe they should have handled it this way or that way. For me personally, I just never assumed that I would get any help, and I just went
Mm,
ahead, and I had to refund. It was really tricky for me. As I said, I also had people who had paid for classes that were going forward, because I always register beforehand, and I always do things in blocks, and it was really tricky. It was hard. I didn't know what would happen, and I didn't expect anything from the government, and it doesn't work really. Then by the time they came up with that, I'd already had a full roster of people, and I was making money, so I didn't need. I didn't need to have that benefit. Not a lot of money, but that wouldn't I wouldn't qualify for
Mhm.
that. But people who have employees, like I don't know if Troy how your situation works. I never had any employees. I'm completely, the only person that does my stuff except when I give things to Norman to do my website. But that's contract work. That's not an employment. That's not
Hmm.
somebody who's teaching with me or who is my partner. And I rented space from people. If, however, I did have a lease, a commercial lease that ended last June, and if this had happened back then in the spring, I would have been in a different situation. But I think that the government, because I do things now on a rental, hourly rental basis, is a different story from other people who have the leases. But I think that the government really tried their best to help people, and I think the big problem from a lot of people, my understanding from what I see, is the landlords that the commercial
Mhm.
landlords were demanding people pay for the rent for their place where they can't operate their business. And that's the big problem that from what I see happening with so many businesses that have gone under because the rents, if we look at what came before, the rents were just outrageous in Toronto.
Mm.
Just and growing like every single, I don't know, every single couple of weeks the rent has gone up here, and people were telling me, like, I knew somebody whose rent went up 40% when they reapplied for their commercial lease. 40% in 1 year. It was obscene. And no improvements at all from the landlord's point of view. And I thought, oh my God, like how can you, he was just so shocked.
Mhm.
And this is right before COVID, and then everything went flat out, no business at all. And do they want, like, I don't understand that. They should be helping people with the rent, commercial rent, because businesses, it's very important to encourage small businesses. Very, very important for lots and lots of reasons. And you need people to feel safe and good and happy going to different places. And if all the businesses are finished,
Mm.
because because everyone, no one can afford the rent, what kind of a city are you going to have? What kind of an environment are you going to
Mm.
have?
Well
And
said.
it affects everybody. It affects families. It affects the kids. The parents can't pay for things. Like it's horrible,
Mm.
horrible. So that's what I feel is missing. This whole business with commercial rent for businesses. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I'm interested to hear from Troy about what you were mentioning about rent, because I know you still rent a physical space.
I've been open for 8 years with this one. I've owned three salons in the past, and this one I've sold two, and this is the one I primarily own now. But I don't own the building; have a lease, and it's commercial. I have a great relationship with my landlord. I know that our landlord, it's just like me. I go into business because I want to make money. I like what I do, but obviously you want to, that's why you get into business. And him, renting out spaces, he's in business and he's got a mortgage to pay also, and I understand where he's coming from. But I had a very good open communication with him throughout this situation. And I've heard some of these other stories too, but they're, in a sense, I feel some of them are third parties. I really don't know what's going on with those situations. But speaking for myself, I'm very grateful and lucky to be in the position that I've who I have as a landlord. I think he's been outstanding over the 8 years of knowing him and working with him. So, and then with the government and the subsidies and them trying to help out landlords, I think that was another huge step up from the government. Like I said, it's I can't imagine how many um, commercial leases there are, and how many people are in need of help, and the government is doing their best to help out. And obviously some aren't going to get the help quick enough, and that really sucks. But it's a pandemic, so under the circumstances, it's I think when they hit the emergency button, I think they did as best as that they could under the circumstances.
And were you in a position where you had to let go someone? Because I know you had some.
I have
I don't know if you.
my staff still. I still have my staff, and they've got their CERB coming in, and they're ready to go back to work, and they're eager to go back to work.
Mhm.
Also, they're a little scared to go back to work, also, due to
Mhm,
the circumstances. But we actually have a staff meeting coming up, and we want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that the salon is going to sort of function at um, the same way it did before, just better. That's I want to look at this as an opportunity to.
mhm,
I look at this as an opportunity to grow. I don't look at it like, oh, look
mhm,
at this. This sucks, and now how are we going to do this? It's basically an
mhm,
opportunity for us to better ourselves, and
mhm,
and across the board. That's how I look at it. I'm turning these lemons into
mhm,
lemonade. I'm not looking at it as, a bad thing. Like, I got to wear a mask, yeah, but look at the benefits of wearing a mask. All right, people are
mhm,
going to be healthy. I'm going to be healthy, and I think that ideally, it's sort of we're all eager to get back to work. We're all excited, but we want to make sure that we don't.
Mm.
Um, in a sense, we basically dot all our I's and cross all our T's and make sure that we're ready for it.
Well, I want to say that attitude that you have about turning lemons into lemonade and just turning the like, let's say, maybe a hard situation into actually an opportunity is
Yeah.
something that is the make of I don't know. It's a philosophical concept that I also abide to.
Hmm.
That when some hardship happens in your life, you don't think of it as your doom, but you think about it as a way to further yourself, as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to do something different. And so I don't know. I just want to say that every time I hear somebody express that kind of philosophy, which I love, it's good to hear.
Thank
I'm
you.
the same way. I'm the same way. I looked upon this as an opportunity to deliver things, teach people in a different way, and it's worked. And encourage my students to do that themselves. And some people are worried about their jobs, and I just say this is a chance for you to grow and develop who you are and try different things and try to get better at what you do, and feel better about what you're doing. And I think it's very important that people feel confident about meeting challenges because we can't control these things. I mean, look what happened. That doesn't mean that it has to be a disaster for people. We can help each other, um, you know, have this philosophy, and that really, when you're positive, it's not being a Pollyanna. It's saying, try. Don't be afraid to try something different. Explore what you like. Find out new things and try to be better at what you're doing. Whatever's going to make you happy, and don't be afraid that everything's a disaster and you're going to lose everything, because I don't believe that. I think people have always risen to the occasion. There are people who are leaders and like to do that and have that attitude. And I think it's very important to be. We have so much negativity around, and you
Mhm,
can't listen to that. I mean, I know it's there, but in my individual choices as a human being, I can choose things that I think are positive. I don't have to be, swept away by tragedy,
Mm.
and bad things happening in my life and other people's lives.
I
What about
think.
you, Norm? How has this affected you guys?
like you, Troy, I seen this as an opportunity to do things that I've never done before. So I think I think all of you know that I've taken up, that I said it to myself that I want to compose a song because I love music, and you will hear like it really almost has nothing to do with what I do in my regular life, which is like has to do with systems and things. Which is this is what I study for, and this is what I love. I love systems. I'm a tech guy. But then I thought, I'm a tech guy, so how can I use this to my benefit? And so what I was thinking, like, a lot of the music world, the music industry, the music producing involves knowledge of software, computers, because computers are what enable to create music in a big way, and not only, but in a big way. And so then I thought, like, I had downtime, and I can just like I want to do something that I always wanted to do, and that is like I want to become a music producer. So I've been learning. I got myself a synthesizer, a very professional microphone. I'm taking ukulele lessons. I got a ukulele, and so I'm doing that. And another thing that I'm doing is this podcast, because this podcast actually came as an idea. It was always an idea in my head. Like I had already had the logo design. I had the website already, the domain taken over. But Tierno and I, aside from being colleagues, We also have this video game group that we frequent, or I would say like virtually as get together with all the guys, which is also very interesting, right? Because we connect and we talk. It's not just video games where we just like mindlessly do something on a video game, but it's also like we're chatting, we're having conversations like this, these very kinds of topics that we're talking about, and we're talking with people from various parts of the world. We have someone who's in Puebla, Mexico. We have people who connect from Alberta, from Edmonton, from various places. Somebody who connects from Abu Dhabi, and then we're just talking. We're talking somebody in the United States, and so we're talking, we're connecting, we're expanding, and out of that sort of reality, that now we're playing a little bit maybe more video games, but we're doing it because we're kind of filling up that social gap that we now have because of social distancing and lockdown. The idea of doing this podcast kind of has kind of like reinvigorated, because also one of my other friends, actually his name is Redman, and he was actually on the first episode. Also, he has a podcast himself, and so that sort of was an influence for me to jumpstart this idea that is now becoming the second episode of this podcast. So yeah, so like you, I think I see this as an opportunity to do things that maybe I they were in the back burner and they didn't get a chance to flourish, but now they are, because you see things a little bit different. Like it cannot puts you in an uncomfortable situation. I think like when we are put in an uncomfortable situation, these are the time that it can kind of like force you to think differently, because you're not like taking out of your element. You're not in your element anymore. We get used to habits and routines, and we can be just in a loop like that forever. And before we know it, we wake up and it's like I've been in this loop and routine, and now I'm 50. But but when something shakes you down, when something disturbs your routine, the same level of thinking, I think that is actually a perfect opportunity to evaluate everything and say, yeah, I'm looking at things differently,
Yeah, yeah,
and what can I do now?
That's great.
Yeah, and
That's
I
great.
think Bruce Lee said it best. He said, "Do not pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." And that's exactly, basically what all you guys said into like
Yes.
one quote, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, like even mentioning podcasts or gaming, I started cooking more. I usually just, get off work, order food, or just make the easiest meal ever. But now I can make my own cookies, I can make my own brownies, I can cook like very healthy meal. I think the last time I ordered food was March 15th, and then yesterday I ordered food again. And not because I don't enjoy food outside, but I wanted to try something different. And now that I have the time, I was like, hey, this is a perfect time to actually learn new meals, like new recipes, I guess. And honestly, it's great. I don't think I would be spending as much money as I was before, because I just realized that the reason why I wasn't cooking is simple. I was lazy. That's it. That's it. So
And I
go
think it's
ahead.
important to recognize that you are something, right? Because I think
Hmm.
a level of awareness about what you are and what you're doing and why you're not doing what you're doing, it's important. Like if you recognize that you didn't do it because you're lazy, then it's like, okay, then I'm not going to be lazy anymore, I'm actually going to do
Hmm.
it. But I don't know, I just feel sometimes that it takes recognition before you can actually change some pattern.
But I
And
think
we
that's how you learn who you are too, and what you want to do. That you can change in a given direction. That you're unhappy with something about yourself, but that there are options. Like, hey, I never thought about doing it this way, or I never thought about doing it that way. Because all of a sudden, when you're stuck in a rut, you just are always doing the same thing over and over again. It's comfortable. And comfort is not a very good, I mean, we have an instinct for comfort, but it shouldn't be in your mind. You have to challenge your mind. You have to challenge your skill set. You have to realize that you can keep growing and growing and growing till the day you die. And if you have that attitude, then it seems to me you're much happier, because the really older people, when you see when you ask them about their lives, they say, "Oh, I had the people that are happy and kept growing. They're very happy. They're
Hmm.
not miserable being old." But then you see people who are so unhappy with the aging process, they can't handle it because they never were a certain way, this idea, and they're not fluid. They're not in touch with their feelings, and they're not challenging themselves. They have this idea that's fixed. And I don't think that's a healthy thing because you know, it's not healthy to be fixed. We need to change and we need to be able to change and go with the flow of our lives and take advantage of things in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Thanks.
Now, I have another question when it get back to your business again. Is there certain things that you guys are optimistic about? I guess, Troy, you could mention one or two things that you might be optimistic about, small businesses or your own business.
Sorry, say that again.
Just something that you're optimistic about after post-COVID, or I guess I assume you're reopening at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we're going to be reopening in the beginning. We're aiming for it's. It seems like we always kind of push the goalposts a little bit farther. So it was kind of like the 18th. We're going to open up in May, and then nothing ever happened. And like I said, it was the uncertainty of everything, right? Because nobody knows exactly, and the government's sort of learning new things every day, and they keep setting the goalposts themselves a little further out. So for me, I'm just sort of, optimistically just going, kind of waiting for that day to reopen also and
Mm,
preparing for that day. So when they say, hey, you can turn on your lights, I'm not scrambling around like a bug, going, oh crap, which direction do I run in? What do I got to get done? So I'm trying to like, in a sense, over prepare. As
mm,
in, I don't know if they're going to tell us to wear face shields, so I bought our staff face shields. I'm guessing they're going to tell us to wear masks, so I made sure that we have masks. I guarantee that they don't want us to use the same capes on everybody, so for cross contamination, so I bought disposable capes.
mm,
So I'm just sort of, and they might not even say that any of that has to be done, but I want to make sure. I'd rather have that stuff done just in case. Optimistically, just thinking that these are things that will hopefully better ourselves and our business to get these things done now. I don't know if that answers your question or not,
yeah,
but
of course
yeah,
it does.
yeah. So it's stuff like that, just pushing forward, and these are things I've never dealt with before either. What Norm was saying is that you're sort of I'm teaching myself something new every day about this stuff. I've been in the industry 18 years. This is this is a pandemic. This is something new.
Mm.
So it's like picking up the ukulele for me now. I'm learning a few new instruments, along the way. So
Mhm.
And you, Donna?
I'm optimistic about the future. As long as people want to learn,
Mm,
I will teach them. The way, how it's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know because we can't open. It's not even realistic to do that. The studio owner, the studio owner isn't doing that. I mean, nobody's doing it. So, but I will continue. My students renew their classes, and I'm just happy to keep teaching, and I'll teach as long as people want to learn. That's it's all the same to me.
mhm.
And it seems like they've wanted to learn from me for a long time. So I'm happy, that I can do that. And I'm optimistic for people. I think that there will be a lot of growth and new businesses and new ideas, and people will be refreshed and bolder in what they do in a positive way. I really do. I think that the people who really want to learn and do things like what Norman's doing, um, I don't look at activities as important or not important. I think that everything that you choose to do, if it means something to you, is important. Maybe you have to make your living doing such and such a thing, but that doesn't diminish the value of what you do. For example, with Norman, with doing his exploring his music, I think it's great that he's doing that. He and I had talked about that, and I think that's wonderful. I don't I don't look at things like that. I think that you know the value is in what you do and what you put into what you do. And yeah, you have to work at things, but you can also try to get as much as you can from a situation in your working situation, like Norman was doing. He was thinking about how can I use technology to help support my musical interest. And I think that's very important. When you value and look for the best of situations. I certainly took me a long time to open up my own studio, even though I was teaching off and on and performing and doing all kinds of things, choreographing, and I had my own company and every ballet company and everything. All these things I went through, but what I did was just try to work to the best of my ability all through it, and always on my music and always on my dancing, finding time for both. And it wasn't equal, but I love those things and they are important to me, so I did them. And it didn't seem like it was, really arduous or impossible. Um, I try to learn from everything that I do, sometimes unsuccessfully, but sometimes that's good too. That makes you think too. I
Hmm.
mean, it's your life, and it should be a creative life no matter what you do, because that's what makes you happy, to be creative and productive, whatever you choose to do.
Go ahead, Troy.
You two, you're in offices. What do you think is going to change for you guys now? What's going to be different for you guys?
You want to start,
Uh,
Naran?
you can start there now if you have it. I can say
um,
something, but yeah.
I think the office interaction will be way different. Our bosses were already mentioning that once we return, going to the kitchen will be different. We won't be sitting in a group while eating during lunch. Um, I don't know. I feel like I won't be as connected with my colleague as I was before. Um, that's it's gonna affect my mood because, to be honest, when I started working for Sarek, Norman was the reason why I got so happy and so I
Wow.
appreciated the job. The reason why is because you were very welcoming. You always invited me to like eating out lunch or going to a park or a certain activity, right? But if we don't have that proximity anymore, I don't know if a new people coming into the office will have
Mm,
that same level of connection with us
mm,
because there's those kind of rules where, we have to be separated or
mm.
um, we can't do certain things because, there's no vaccine available for us to be conjugating like we used to. That
Are you
for sure is gonna affect.
are you guys in cubicles at work? Is that how it is?
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe you guys will have to end up eating at your desks. Do you think?
That's
Uh,
a possibility, and I think there's also a possibility where I might I might not be working during the same day as Norman because our cubicle are not maybe like a meter, 2 meters away. Those are certain things that I think just will change the dynamic of like office work.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that that a lot of offices are going to have to reconfigure and to comply with the recommendations that they have, or
Hmm.
what that a lot of places. One of my students, she works for a company, and she said they just renovated and took down the barriers before COVID, and
Oh my
now they're
God.
going to have to like it's going to be very different experience.
Hmm.
Like dentists are finding that. When I called to make an appointment with my dentist, they were saying, "Well, the office is a little bit different. I haven't been there, but yeah." And another medical appointment, you have to wait until they let you in, and I guess they're having, they have to follow these
Hmm.
guidelines for safety, which is going to be in offices, going to be every workplace for people. Yeah.
yeah. So what I've been seeing is because I've been asking also other people who work in other offices, and I've been reading articles and whatnot. The general sense is no one really knows what would be the best approach to bring people physically into offices, and it's just because this is new, and we never really dealt with this. I mean, in our lifetimes, with a pandemic in this level. And so if you can just hear, for example, how the TTC is thinking of doing things, I think they're saying like they want to force people to wear masks to transit. And I don't know if you've taken the TTC during the COVID situation, They put some yellow tapes in some chairs just to create some space, to force people to create some space in between. But I think the general sense is no one really knows
Mm,
what are the best ways of doing it. I think the offices, or at least where we work, they're trying to figure it out. And I think there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be some recommendations. There are going to be some decisions that are going to be made in order to protect us, to help us not have the level of contact that we had before. And just like Darren said, like maybe some people are going to work at different days. We're probably going to be told not to come to the office only if we really want to come to the office. It's going to be optional. But yeah, I think there's going to be probably a lot of awkwardness all
mm,
throughout, because if I just think about like today, I went out. I met with a friend to do some biking, and when I met her, because generally I, in a normal situation, I will hug her and I will, kiss in the cheek or something like that. But then this time, then I even thought like, "Oh, can I ask her like, is it okay for you if I can hug you? I'm okay with it, but I don't know if you're okay with it." But then instead of saying that, I just thought maybe I just don't ask anything, and I just like
it's
keep my
awkward.
distance. And so it's just a little awkward. On the one
Uh,
hand, I do want to hug her. I haven't seen her for like months, and on the other hand, it's better that I don't ask, because different people have different sensitivities to the issue,
mhm,
because different people have different situations. Different people have maybe like some preconditions that they feel more vulnerable, and other people don't have those conditions and they don't feel as vulnerable, or some people don't think the situation is as severe as other people. So it's just going to be hard, I think, to get everyone on the same level with this preconceived ideas, beliefs, or opinions about what we're dealing with. And so I think it's just going to be a lot of like I said, awkwardness going around, and a lot of trial and error going around
mm,
until we get to the point where we're all satisfied with. But I think it's going to be just permutation after permutation of changes, until quote unquote we get it right. and
But
and
sorry, Norman, but I
yeah.
just want to say, that I think you're talking about communication, and I think it's a good thing because before people just took things for granted, and I think you're here. You were, talking about this, thinking about the situation with your friend, and maybe the next time you see each other, you talk about it. Like I think that it's good that even this kind of awkwardness is not a bad thing. I think that people took a lot of things for granted and didn't really listen to each other, and really think on that sensitivity level. And I think it can be a very important thing for developing deeper relationships and more meaningful relationships, because you're listening more to the person and they're listening more to you, and you're more aware of each other, as you're not assuming things. That's what I feel. I don't know. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just looking at the time. So this is called the 1 hour podcast. So we don't
Okay.
necessarily. It doesn't matter that we're gonna end in 1 hour, but also I think we've gone over in a way. So I think I can ask you a question, just to not that we're not talking about in a good note, but I think of you two, and by you two I mean Troy and Donna, as successful small business owners in a giant city that is Toronto. I mean, there are tons of limitations and hardships that owning a business can have. What would be so? This is my question to you both. What would be the one thing that you think made you successful and made you have a business for the amount of length of time that you had, that maybe other small business owners couldn't, because there's a lot of small business owners who fail and who just cannot have the dream of being your own boss and having your own business. What is it that you think makes you be successful, let's say, in being a small business owner in a city like Toronto?
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay. I think the care that the respect I have for the individual, and for their education, and for what is important to them. That my students are really important to me, as people, and each one of them is equally important. not what how much they do, how good they are, how bad they are. I don't care about that. I care about, do you want to learn? And that's, and they know that. They know that I respect their desire to learn, and that that makes me happy, because part of the reason why I started this business was because nobody took adult dance education very seriously, not in ballet. They looked upon it as, okay, just fill the place up with people. They're never going to be professionals. And I never approach art that way. I think the creative force in a human being is really the most important thing to keep alive, and it's the hardest to keep alive. And I honor anybody who wants to learn, really. And I think that's what's made my business successful. I hope so. Seems like it. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, it does. What
Troy?
about you, Troy?
Oh God. I it's sort of hard, business in Toronto. I feel like I'm somebody who always wants to learn. I never look at anybody as it doesn't matter who it is. If somebody else is in the industry that I'm in, I feel that I can grow from them. If they're doing something right, I want to learn what I can do right. And I think that being in Toronto, that is so, it's man, this is like what are we now, the fourth largest city in North America, or it's a pretty wonderful place. It's very multicultural, and there's so much opportunity for growth. And I just sort of I treat every day as in like it's my first day. I just work hard. I work, believe it or not, I work 6 days a week in there. Technically seven if you count the days that I do pick up with like deliveries. 8 years in that place, not one sick day. 6 days a week working behind the chair. So I treat every day as in like basically it's you go to work and you work hard, you play hard, and I love what I do, and ideally it's just it doesn't even feel like I've been open 8 years. It feels like I've been doing this for say three. I've only been open for three, but it's I don't even know if that answers your question, but it's just basically hard work. Every day is just you work hard, you play hard, and at the end, and then you go to bed.
Yeah, so this is just my observation because I know you both, and just being from my observation, if one thing I see is that I think both of you are not afraid to just try things out and then just come like, get out of that sort of like that zone that you may be accustomed to. I think we spoke about like just being in routine and whatnot, but I think you both are trying new things. They're both open up to try new things, and I think there's maybe an element of like fearlessness also, right? Because sometimes people don't want to try new things because they have fear of, what if I do this wrong if I try this out. But I think sometimes I think for people who like succeed is that they're not afraid of failure, right? Like they say like you can fall down 7 times but you need to get up 8 times. I think Denzel Washington said that in one of his YouTube videos, inspirational YouTube videos that I've seen, is that you have to like just not afraid of trying things, not afraid of failure, and just keep going, keep your head up, and get up and try harder, right? So I don't know, it's just something that I've observed in YouTube. um and
And,
we're talking about opportunity, right? So but yeah, go ahead.
and yourself, Norm. Like you,
Mm.
you how many things in life you're trying and doing and growing with, and it's the same type of thing. You're now embarking on a music career.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, and I don't care, by the way, like I don't care if I fail, like I don't care if like I do a song and it sounds just like a horse, I don't know, being tortured or something. I don't care. Like I just, at least I will know, at least for myself, at least I will know that this is being in my head for a long time, and I always wanted to see what would happen. And if it fails, well, at least I know I try, right? At least
Mhm.
I know that I did try. I really really try, and it didn't work out, and that's it. Turn the page and let's try something else. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Maybe I'll take Donna's classes this time because I know she's been really hard. She's been really hard trying to get me to take her classes. So maybe I'll do that next. I don't know.
I get to
Who
give you a pair
knows?
of leg warmers.
But in all seriousness, I think just something about like what Donna's business, and I don't know if it's become clear, but Donna, it's all about inclusivity, right? It's all
Mm,
about like diversity and welcoming everybody, and it also includes guys actually. And like I think when we think about like ballerinas and
the
that we think about
girls.
girls, it's a
Yep.
girl thing, but actually, Donna, like you had like men being in your
Yeah.
classes, so it's,
Yes.
it's not it's not just like a woman thing. It's actually all people thing. So
That's right. Anybody can learn. Everybody's got a body, so they can learn.
Well, maybe you should coax us in the three of us showing up to one of your classes sometime.
That
Free
would be
trial,
good.
please. Free trial.
She's gonna put up with us.
One day.
I have to pay her.
yeah, I'll pay money to see Tierno in a leotard.
Oh, yeah,
You
that's not
don't
gonna
have to wear
happen.
no, you don't have to wear leotards, okay?
Oh,
You
that's
don't
not a
have
requirement.
to.
Okay.
No, 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 no. Those things are not important. What's important?
That's
Otherwise,
what they say in the media. I have to wear it if I want to be a
Yeah,
ballerina.
well, what they say in the media is ridiculous, okay? Yeah, it has nothing to do with reality.
That's
Honest
true.
to God. Yeah, dream on. Yeah.
Donna, you just gotta let Norm know that the leg warmers are part of his outfit, though.
Okay. Norman can buy leg warmers. They're very good for warming up your muscles.
Yeah, keeping your ankles warm.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna close off this podcast. I want to thank you, all of you, for participating, and yeah, I will. We might talk each other in another time, maybe another topic that will interject.
But
But
before,
Sure.
yeah,
yeah, sorry,
good.
but before we go, can you, Troy and Donna, just mention a little bit about your business for people who don't know?
Absolutely,
Obviously, we did talk about it, but your address, where they can reach you.
good point. Yeah.
Donna,
Okay. My business is called Ballet Espressivo, and I have a wonderful website that www.balletespressivo.com. Norman built that beautiful website, and you can reach me through that or call me. Just look it up.
Right?
Troy?
I own a hair salon called Republic of Hair at www.republicahair.com. Norman also built that beautiful website. Um, and yeah, if anybody needs a haircut, you know where to find us.
I might come because trust me, this hair is looking rough right now, but eventually, uh,
We'd love to
Yeah.
have you in there, honestly.
yes.
Pleasure.
Troy is I used to say a magician with hair. He's
Oh,
like
Great.
the Michelangelo of hairstyling.
I think I need more than magic right now.
You should see him too. He's in the zone. And when he's cutting hair, he's in the zone. You see him, it's
But
like, wow, there's
good.
something is going on there that I just don't understand. But
It's like that Kobe Bryant thing of being repetitive. You keep working at it
Mm,
and at it until you get it better and better
yeah,
and better. And
Black
Right.
Mamba mentality. Yeah.
exactly. Teaching that, I was just like, I understand that with hair, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
all right, Phil, thank you very much. We're gonna stop right here, and yeah,
All right.
thank you all.
Thank
Thank you.
you guys.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank
Thank you
you.
Bye
very much.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.